Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing an i5-7400 paired with a GTX 1060 6GB. Trying to get to 60 frames per second on all the games I'm testing. You can skip to any of those down in the description. And if you're interested in purchasing any of the parts featured in this build and support the channel, there are Amazon affiliate links down in the description. So first I'll be doing Battlefield 1 multiplayer on a 64-player battle. I'm playing on a map that I had the highest CPU usage, and so far the game ran fine. I'm using ultra settings, and you'll see that the CPU usage is over 90% pretty much all the time. That caused the game sometimes to have some frame drops that are kinda rare, to 50 frames per second, but sometimes the game likes to freeze for like 3 seconds and then it kinda revives in some way, but still it's a great experience. Apart from some freezes and micro stutter, the game is still playable.
We have lost objective apples. We have taken objective Edward. We have taken objective apples.
Ich werfe Granaten!
We have taken objective Duff.
GTA 5, I'll be doing 1080p with very high settings, pretty much, and NVIDIA PCSS shadows, and I'm using a couple of the advanced settings. So I'll be just going to fly into the city, into a big street. I will explode a bunch of cars, all that kind of stuff. Then I'll just get onto a chopper again, fly away from the city, and that's pretty much it. You'll see that while exploding cars, I will drop below 60 frames per second. In order to fix that, just use soft test shadows instead of NVIDIA PCSS, and that should help you a lot. But yeah, so far the game runs fine. It's possible to hit 60 frames per second. The Witcher 3, I'll be doing 1080p using ultra settings, except one thing, full HD visibility range will be on high instead of ultra, since I couldn't notice a difference with that setting lower to high, and the game still looks great, but the performance difference is quite significant. I'll be going into Novigrad, but it's enough to stay over 60 frames per second so far, so I wouldn't worry too much about this one. It looks great and it runs at over 60. I'm testing Novigrad since that's a CPU intensive area as far as I'm concerned, and well, that's it.
You'll choke to death on 3 pounds of behave, Witcher.
Oh! Oh! I'll smash your face!
Any needs, monster?
Temple Guard let even you into the city. Another drifter in from Toledo.
Chance to surrender unorthodox books.
Happened to fall.
Grimoires and tracts blaspheming the sacred flame is
Fallout 4, I'll be doing 1080p with ultra settings, except for one thing. I lowered the shadow distance from ultra to high, plus I enabled HBAO plus, since it looks much better than SSAO, at least on this game. I'm going to be testing Diamond City. I'm just going down the elevator. I'll be going around the city, then I will just shoot a bunch of people, and you'll see that I'm close to 60 frames per second, but it's pretty easy to drop below that target. I'm using unlocked frame rates, but it all depends on your taste. Maybe you want 60 FPS no matter what. That's more difficult to get, but it should be possible with mods.
Hey, who wants to look beautiful? Hairstyles from across the
Move
common.
along. Ayaswada, the game changer!
We buy and sell everything to everyone, except sins. No sins
Don't
allowed
let the
here.
stress of life kill you. Relax with some
My God.
hands.
Hitman, I'll be doing 1080p using DirectX 11, since DirectX 12 on the GTX 1060 for some reason gave me a little more stutter, so I prefer to use a more stable option. I played with ultra settings, but I lowered the shadow resolution from high to medium since it was a bit hit to the frame rate. I'm testing the Marrakesh mission, which is the one that has the most NPCs and stuff going on at once. So that's the one that performed the worst on my end. There's a lot of NPCs, a lot of transparencies, all that kind of stuff. So it's a good stress test for the CPU. And so far I'm unable to hit 60 frames per second constant, but it was difficult even using an i7 4790. So outside this mission, it's possible to hit 60s, but it can be better if you lock it at 60 frames per second.
Sir?
Your guy's clearly dead. Maybe he just took the money and made a dash for it, huh? What?
You're gonna regret this!
Just Cause 3, I'll be doing 1080p using the maximum settings. And for this game what I'm going to do is just blow up a gas station, then fly around a little bit, blow up another gas station, and then just fly around some more. And well, about this game, it stutters quite a lot, especially when flying around the city. It can have some sudden drops in the frame rate. Some people say that it's the RAM usage, and the game tells you when you open it up that you don't have enough system RAM. So maybe having more than 8 GB of system RAM helps on this one, but it also requires a better CPU. I had a much better experience using an i7 in this game. It seems that the extra threads make the difference.
Target is still at large. Find him. This is dispatch, sending ground reinforcements to your position.
Now that's an explosion. Balanced smoke plumage and excellent blaze to boom ratio.
Overwatch, I'll be doing in 1080p using the maximum settings. And there's not much to say about this one. It runs just fine. It's always over 60 frames per second no matter what, at least with this card. So yeah, the gameplay is just fine. No issues whatsoever.
My ultimate is charging. My ultimate is charging.
Batman Arkham Knight, I'll be doing in 1080p without any of the GameWorks effects and with film grain and chromatic aberration turned off, the rest just cranked up. And the game so far has the same issues as before. It just has some random stutters while moving fast through the map or just doing random things. It's kind of unpredictable, but the developers recommend 12 GB of RAM, which is kind of ridiculous, but it might make the game more stable, who knows. I don't have 12 gigs to test right now, so I cannot give you my opinion on it. But I noticed that the game ran better using an SSD. Plus there is a tweaking tool that you can find on a link down in the description that lets you control how the stuff in the distance loads up, which can help you with the performance. In this video I'm just booting up the game. I'm not using any mods or tweaks or anything like that. So yeah, consider all I said if you want to play this game.
In that car tank thing. You ever wonder if this whole thing is some
Assassin's Creed Unity, I'll be doing 1080p using very high settings. I just avoided using MSAA, I use FXAA instead, and I turn off soft shadows, which are the NVIDIA PCSS shadows, and the rest is just cranked up. I'm using ultra textures, ultra draw distance, and HPAO plus instead of SSAO, and you can see that the game can hit 60 frames per second, but it feels very unstable. It's not very smooth in that regard. Sometimes you'll just put a sword onto an enemy and the game will freeze and then it goes back to normal. It's kind of annoying, but sometimes it just likes to drop below 60. It seems to just be a CPU limitation, since I tested this same thing with the i7-4790 and it was just fine. It was over 60 no matter what, so keep that in mind. But yeah, the game's still playable. Just keep it at 60 and it should make it more stable overall.
Quelqu'un d'important passe par là?
CSGO, I'll be doing 1080p using 4x MSAA, the rest pretty much cranked up. I'm playing a deathmatch and you'll see that I'm over 200 frames per second pretty much all the time. There are some drops below 200, but they are not really that noticeable, at least for me, that I'm not a pro. If you didn't notice, I'm sorry about the gameplay guys, I'm not good at this game. Shooters in general are not my cup of tea on multiplayer. But anyway, it's over 200 a lot of time, and that should give you an idea. Watch Dogs 2, I'll be doing 1080p using temporal filtering. You can see the rest of the settings in the video itself. The temporal filtering will just use a temporal reprojection of previous frames in order to reconstruct the image. So it's not actually 1080p, it's frames of a lower resolution just crammed together, which won't be exactly the same as native 1080p, but it looks pretty good and the performance difference is very substantial. And while this game is quite unstable, even using an i7 4790, and on Uplay I got a message saying, hey, get more system RAM, you don't have enough to get smooth frame rates. So maybe having more than 8 gigs of RAM, it's a good idea on this game. I couldn't try it just yet since I don't have enough RAM to test it out, but on this one it ran much more stable than on the AMD cards. I suspect that's because of the GameWorks features that this game has, but I have no way of confirming that. So we'll just leave it as speculation from my end. But if you have a different taste compared to me, just watch the video and decide. Rise of the Tomb Raider, I'll be doing 1080p with DirectX 12 and I'm using tweak settings close to high in order to hit 60 frames per second. I use DirectX 12 since I found it to be a little better than DirectX 11 on this game in particular, and I just tested this level that is very CPU intensive. So you can see the worst case scenario, for saying it some way. On some very short instances it can drop below 60 frames per second, but then on more open areas it can be over 60 just fine. But I still recommend to lower the settings a little bit more, especially the level of detail, that can help with the CPU usage. But yeah, so far it's playable.
Laura, I'm sorry if Sophia was less than welcoming.
I understand. I'm just glad you were there to vouch for me.
My people have spent decades fighting outsiders. It's not an easy habit to break. See if you can lend a hand with the preparations. A little hard work would go a long way towards building trust.
I'll see what I can do.
Forza Horizon 3, I'll be doing 1080p using tweaked settings. You'll see that the reflections are lowered quite a bit, and the shadows have dropped from ultra to high, and the world car level of detail is on medium. I'm using unlocked frame rates, and as you can see the game is running at 60 frames per second pretty much, with some drops to 55 sometimes. I noticed that the RX 470, that you can see in the previous video down below, run this game better using the same settings. I suspect that's due to DirectX 12, since AMD cards most of the time had better compatibility for that feature, but I cannot know for sure, so that's just speculation from me. as I said before. But still, the game is very smooth, it looks great, and it's a lot of fun. And finally, Doom. I'm going to be playing at 1080p beyond the Ultra preset. You'll see that shadows and textures will be bumped up from Ultra to Nightmare, so it will be more demanding. You'll see some drops below 60 every now and then. I'm using the Vulkan API, and you'll see sometimes a couple drops below 60, so if you want a better experience, just drop the shadows from Nightmare to Ultra and you'll be fine. But yeah, so far the game runs fine. So conclusion time, as you could see, most of the games were able to hit 60 frames per second just fine. I noticed that the CPU usage on many games was quite high, over 90% on extended periods of time. That sometimes can cause some stutters or freezes, especially on Battlefield 1 multiplayer, but Watch Dogs 2 requires more RAM apparently, well, that can be a big factor into the stuttering too, so keep that in mind. That was the objective of the video, see if we can get 60 frames per second, and it was more than playable, at least for me. But on some games the stutter was very noticeable and annoying. Tomorrow I'm going to be trying to record this same video but using an RX 480 to see if we can get better frame rates or similar frame rates on those games I tested right now. And maybe next week I'll be testing the Ryzen 5 1400, so we can see how it runs with the cards I tested with the i5. So you can have a better comparison. Hopefully we'll get BIOS updates for that one, so I can make a proper video. But that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.